Shall we start?
Yes, please.
I think we should.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Buenos dias or good morning and welcome to the webinar of the Halal Economy Chair and Think Tank launch, organized by the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance, the BIBF, in collaboration with the Telmo Business School and Burj Group to announce the launch of the European Halal Economy Think Tank. The think tank is established to facilitate the ever-growing European Muslim community and to connect European firms with halal businesses around the world to leverage off this multi-billion-dollar opportunity. We're also pleased to have the Bahrain Economic Development Board, the Bahrain EDB, to highlight the advantages of establishing a business in Bahrain and act as a gateway to the GCC. On behalf of the BIBF and Telmo Business School, I'm Fatma Nasser and I'll be your host this morning. You can write down your questions here and we'll address them inshallah later during the Q&A session. Once again, we're delighted to welcome you at this webinar and your presence is really helping make it a great success. We have a lineup of distinguished speakers from Bahrain and Spain who will be sharing their insights on the halal market as a real business opportunity for companies around the world. To start off, please join me in welcoming Mr. Mujtaba Khalid, Head of the Islamic Finance Center at the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance, to say a few words. Over to you, Mujtaba.
Thank you, Fatma. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome, everyone. That was very well done, Fatma. I mean, your voice is amazing, if I may say so. Thank you, everyone, for joining us from around the world. Let me start off by saying that it is an honor and a pleasure to have you. This initiative is very timely. As Fatma did say, this is a big opportunity. And I think if I look at one of the biggest opportunities in the next 20 years, like this is one of those segments that is really going to grow. Let me give you a brief, because I'm going to jump in later on as well with the numbers and everything. But let me give you a brief about the BIBF, the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance. The BIBF is the training arm of the Central Bank of Bahrain. It is under the chairmanship of His Excellency, the Governor of the Central Bank of Bahrain. It was established 40 years ago to facilitate the GCC financial professionals. And you know, it has since then trained 400,000 individuals or trainees in 63 different countries. I had the Islamic Finance Center, which is the oldest Islamic finance professional qualification provider in the world. And you know, we work with financial institutions, regulators, regulatory bodies from around the world. For example, we work with the World Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and all sorts of regulators from different countries and jurisdictions. The halal economy itself is a great opportunity, like I mentioned. There are many things that is leading to the growth of the halal economy. And I will, like I mentioned, my session is later on where I'll show you slides and numbers to actually, you know, so you can contextualize where this opportunity lies. And then we can, you know, it'll just make you think, why is it being ignored so much, you see? So I'll come on later. For now, I'd like to, you know, welcome my colleague, Professor Jose Miguel, who will be welcoming you as well and sharing some of the Halal Think Tank and Halal Chair, you know, components. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Thank you very much for your kind presentation. I'd like to thank everybody for being here connected. I'd please ask you to switch on your cameras, because that way we will be able to see you and to share with you some ideas, maybe in the debate that we will be having at the end of this webinar, and start presenting myself. My name is Professor Jose Miguel Amuedo. I have been a teacher in Telmo Business School for the last 20-something years. I don't want to confess the age, and it's a pleasure to have you here. So thank you very much, because my labor here is to introduce this new thrilling activity, which is the Halal Economy Chair. I'm gonna share my screen with you so you can have a look at it and see here, there. So that's me. And well, before starting, some recommendations. Please try to have your microphones muted. We will have a debate at the end of the webinar, so you will have the opportunity to ask, and if you have any queries or doubts about what we have been presenting, please switch on your cameras, because that way we will be able to see you, and it's a pleasure to have people from all over the world. And my issue is, as I said, my point here is to present this new activity, which is a thrilling new activity. It's a Halal Economy Chair, which is the result of some conversations that we have been maintaining with Burj Group and BIBF and for the last 2 years. And the issue, the point, why to have it, is because there is a market opportunity in the halal ecosystem, and we want to study it, and we want it to be well known for our alumni and for all the companies who want to have activities within that market. So the topics that I'm gonna be treating today or listening to today is why a halal economy chair, the definition, possible activities that we want to perform, and who are the actors. You will be knowing them. Why? As I said, because there is a huge market. There is a huge market that is up to $2.2 trillion of consumption with a growing activity or growing rate of 5.2%, and that's a fact. I mean, we shouldn't ignore it in the Eastern countries and in the Western countries. I'm sorry, and the second reason is the growth estimation of the Muslim population, which is expected to be something like 2,200 million people in the year 2030, which is just around, and that creates a huge market. And the factors for that growth are basically the growth in either in number, but also in the economic capacity of that population. On the other hand, the growing affiliation to ethical values in all the markets, also in the halal ecosystem. The interest that not only private investors and multinationals, but also nations have been showing in that fact, in that market. And the fact that, let's say that there has been an alignment in between the sustainable developing objectives and the sectors of the halal economy system. And therefore, it is expected to go on growing and growing as a fact. The definition, well, the definition, I would say that the halal economy chair is a teaching, an academic activity, which is supposed to focus basically in teaching and research. And research means cases, articles, studies, etc. The idea is to promote the business practice, cultural promotion, and the dissemination of that knowledge relating to the halal market in between not only our alumni, but also people from all over the world or companies from all over the world. And the objective that we have is to become a reference, the European reference in the study and research of this halal ecosystem. And possible activities that we are thinking of, and I don't want to be very long because I want to give the word to my colleagues. Possible activities. The first one, and Professor Jose Antonio Boccherini will be talking afterwards about it, is a training program. A training program basically focused on the food halal market, the food market with reference to the halal opportunities. But we plan to have business meetings, probably board of experts, case writings, because we need to show success experiences from companies operating in the halal market, and session in other activities in San Telmo to explain the reality, the fact of that market opportunity, and also publishing. We are an academic institution, as well as our partner BIBF, which we are very proud to have them as a partner with us. And the actors, as I said, there has been 3 actors working in this activity. As I just said, we are very proud to have as a partner to the BIBF, the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance, which is a world-class provider of education. Is very specialist in the halal economy market and in the financial sector, and is based in the Kingdom of Bahrain. They have more than 400 different courses, and we are proud to have them as a partner. We are proud to have as a partner to Burj Group. In a few minutes, I will be giving the word to my colleague and friend, Christian Romero. Mr. Christian Romero, who is the CEO of Burj Group, is a firm dedicated to corporate diplomacy and strategic operations, and they are specialists in the area of GCC. And then the last partner, or the last actor in this activity, is Telmo, which is a global business school with more than 35 years of experience in teaching. It is considered among the first ones, or the #1 in the world in the food chain in training. And Jose Antonio, the professor who we will be talking about the training program, is a director of that department, of the food department in San Telmo, and specialized in the agribusiness and food and beverage. And we have over 7,500 alumni all over the world. Many of them specialize in that sector. And I think that's all for me. I would like to give the word then to, as I announced it before, to my friend, Mr. Christian Romero. Mr. Christian Romero is the CEO of the Burj Group, and he will be explaining us the role of the think tank as the body that will advise and guide all the research and academic activities in the Halal Economy chair. So, Christian, please, you have the word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, everyone, to be with us over here in this launching of the webinar. Thank you very much to our colleagues also in BIBF, and of course the leadership on the implementation of this new and we are absolutely sure a unique and amazing activity in coordination with the San Telmo Business School, where we feel very, very comfortable on that. Just a few words before I launch my presentation. For us, for Burj Group, who is a company that I have the pleasure to lead for the second generation, and where we, after 17 years, we are leading strong number of important implementations and JVs in between European companies and Gulf entities, either private and public. Let's say that we, in our position, this kind of initiative makes a lot of sense and effort, because also we had the pleasure to, in the past, to be serving to the Economic Development Board of Bahrain, sitting today with us over here, with the representative of the governor of Bahrain in attraction of investment and companies to be implemented in the country. So for us as a Spanish entity, European entity, and also half Gulf entity with our partnerships and investors, it's really a pleasure to be part of this initiative. I would like to make a presentation as a professor, my dear professor, by the way, Jose Miguel has introduced, is about the think tank. Well, let's say, first of all, the think tank, it's a very common name nowadays. Everyone knows about that. But our point of view about the think tank and coordination with the Halal Economy Chair is to be advising and guiding the Halal Economy Chair. This is the overview and where we want to be stand on this action and coordination with the chair that will be definitely focused in the educational sector. What in our point of view is the definition on the think tank? Well, again, going back to the terms that is using in the sector, think tank of the Halal Economy Chair, it's a collegiated body that advise and recommend lines of research to the Halal Economy Chair of Telmo Business School, and will be collaborating with companies, institutions represented by renewable professionals. Our overview on the think tank is a way to be addressing and leading the action, the lines of research and the lines of execution that needs to be implemented in the Halal Economy Chair. What are our commitments from the think tank? Well, first of all, we'll be very honored to be meeting and organizing regional attending meetings in twice a year. And during these meetings, we are going to contribute to the Halal Economy Chair with the following terms. We have overviewed just a few of them. For sure, there will be more than that, but we'll be scanning on the following ones. Recommend the main lines of research and facilitating right of the case, which at the end of the day, as the professor was mentioning earlier, the most important topic over here, the educational side. Providing valuable help and sharing extensive management experience to the sector, increasing, of course, the capacity and the training for the CEOs and the entities who are attending those meetings. Suggest, facilitate, and support the institutional relations of the Halal Economy Chair with companies, public and private either, locals, regional, international, supranationals, and other type of institution that we are going to involve in our entity and who will be, of course, related to the Halal Economy sector. Support the training food sector with the leadership of Telmo Business School and, of course, in coordination with the BIBF, as an expert will be also bringing their value and their knowledge into this field. And two other ways that it's really relevant for us. Now, first of all, encourage the attendance of high-level participants in the training activities of the Halal Economy Chair. We are thinking to bring very high-level participants on that because we think that this kind of initiative will make sense for them. And definitely the outcome of being participant of that is to encourage, of course, the cross-border activities in the Halal Economy sector. As Professor Mushtaba will be explained to you later on, there's a huge opportunity in this field that we are focusing initially in the food sector, but definitely will be extended to other sectors in the general economy. And then that we think for sure from the Halal Economy Chair initiative that will be driving more than one sector and will be coming up with the next future. Sorry. Why joining the think tank? Of course, there's many ways of thinking on that and why to lead or to participate in an entity like that has different clues. We have just defined a few of them for sure. Anyone could have their own interest, but those are our ideas initially. Link your brand or your company, in case that it's a company who's leading on that, to the unique global initiative to help companies and their CEOs to be successful in the Halal Economy sector, and definitely to increase their knowledge in the Halal Economy. As I mentioned earlier, later on you will be the overview about that, but definitely this chair and think tank will be a unique global initiative that will be, we guess, recognized from the largest entities in both parts of the world. Help other companies to improve their performance by knowing trends and how those companies are managing them. Become part of the leading group of outstanding companies and people that wants to exchange experience and business at the highest level. Have the support of the Telmo Business School and the BIBF in the entire global community to contract ideas, approach strategies, and develop their future. And for sure, have our support from Burj Group and due to our relevant presence in the Gulf, based in 3 countries there. Participate in development of the knowledge and advising, of course, the lines of research to the chair, where we are going to include of course, experience and new ways of trends that we think that could be bringing value to the chair. And for sure, one more relevant thing is definitely being part of the think tank means to have 2 free registration places in our training programs, and of course, attending the high-level meetings that we're going to develop. So in general terms, those are the recommendation why we think that could be interesting to join our think tank. Now, and to finish my speech, who is going to be part of the board of the Halal Economy think tank? In this table, we're going to have a president. You will be allowing me not to disclose right now about the names of the people who will be sitting on that, but you can be sure that we're going to find the better prospect, and you will be finding very high reputed people sitting on that. A president with an executive president sitting next door who will be leading the action in the executive way. And surrounding the table, you will be finding, if you are part of our think tank, government of entities, government from the Gulf, international governments, international associations and institutions, and definitely, of course, the private sector will be sitting with us. Private sector from the Gulf, private sector from Europe, and private sector from the rest of the world. I would like to encourage, for sure, to be part of our Halal Economy chair and definitely our think tank. And we think that will be very, very successful for the rest of the people sitting us. Thank you very much again for attending that. And I would like to leave the word to my colleague, Professor Mujtaba. Thank you.
Mujtaba, you are mute.
Yep, sorry about that. Yeah, that was, sorry guys. Thank you guys. That was really insightful for us and I'm sure the participants as well. And it's very exciting, like Christian said and Professor Jose said as well. It's a very exciting prospect. It's very much needed as well. Just to give you, just before I start, I mean, I'll give you an example of how Telmo works as well and how BIBF works. Because I've been part of a program for InFood. And the idea is, so we're trying to stay away from the theoretical knowledge. We're very much applied. So it will be an exam, and Professor Jose Antonio will give more details about it. But just so you know from the perspective of what we're trying to achieve very much hands-on practical knowledge. I'll give you an example. I was part of the InFood program which Telmo runs. And the case studies, it was all Harvard-style case study. It wasn't like you're just coming in and sitting for 5 hours in a professor is just giving a lecture on theory. It was very much case study based. And you had like literally cutting edge stuff. Like you had Alibaba case study on Alibaba, and one of the persons from Alibaba came and we had a question and answer session with him. We had Deliveroo and all of these, and we had agri technology as well. So it was very interesting for me and it was a great learning experience. And that's what we're trying to replicate in the halal market. Because if you look globally, there might be a program here and there, but there's no such robust program which brings in people who have actually worked there or working there with case studies and and the program that is actually targeted at business individuals. So that's about the program. The think tank, I'll go on, as Christian said, it's a bridge. You see, it's aimed at the European and the increasing Muslim population in Europe and non-Muslim countries, but also a bridge towards your conventional Muslim markets as well. And it's very exciting. We want to work with businesses. We want to have advocacy between businesses and governments. So it's all very exciting. What I'll do is, so this is my presentation, the halal market opportunity. When we speak about the halal economy, what do we mention? What is meant? What are the pillars of the halal economy? Of course, food is one of the most important ones, and we've heard of it. And some of you might have already heard of Islamic finance, especially those based in Muslim countries. Islamic finance is also a big pillar of the halal economy. But there's also clothing, modest fashion, and you see a lot of global multinationals getting into this. You see Nike, you see other brands, launching the headscarves and all of that. So halal fashion and clothing, modest fashion, is a big part, and it's a big growing part. I mean, it's one of the most important, if you ask me. Travel. Now, travel, what does that mean? Travel means, and this is a concept which is picking up a lot in Turkey and Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, where you have hotels who, for example, would not serve, are catered towards families. They won't serve alcohol. They won't have a casino or something in them. So that's towards the Muslim consumer. Halal travel, media and recreation. I've got a fact in the next slide which states that 15 of the top 40 countries where there has been a great mobile penetration are Muslim countries. So that means that there's a consumer which needs, which has a need for like media and all of that. And this has started, like you see, like a lot of Turkish series, have been, translated into multiple languages, and they've taken the world by storms. From people, I've traveled to Russia, people in Russia see them. I've traveled to like Pakistan, people in Pakistan see them. So it's very interesting, and this is also a big opportunity. Pharmaceuticals, of course, using ingredients which are Sharia compliant or which are halal, and cosmetics. When it comes to halal food or the ingredients, what do I mean? And just giving you a high level, there's a certain way, like for the Jewish faith, it's called kosher. So there's a certain prescribed way of where we slaughter animals, but also we're not allowed to have pork. Again, like the other Abrahamic faiths, like Jews as well, Jewish religion, I believe, there's also this precedent, and the other such points to note. What is the consumer opportunity? What is the business opportunity? As of, this is from actually 2018, the numbers. Yes, this is from the State of the Global Islamic Economy Report 2020, but the numbers are from 2018, so you can imagine they have grown. This is a $2.2 trillion at that time. Yeah, 1.8 billion people are Muslims. That's 25% of the world population, and it's largely ignored. Imagine if someone said, look, this is a product which 25% of the global population wants to consume. Imagine how Nike or all these big brands would go for that product, right? But this, you have 25% of the global population which are Muslims, and you have some efforts, but there's no coordinated effort being done to say, okay, this is an opportunity. How do we leverage off this? And that's one of the things we want to do here. And it's projected to grow to 6.2 trillion, 6.2% by 2024. So from 2.2 trillion, it will go to $3.2 trillion by 2024. That's what it's projected at. And that's huge in any way you put it. That's a huge market opportunity. I'll be concentrating on my presentation in these two, the food, halal food side and the Islamic finance side. But we will also, as Christian mentioned, eventually we will expand to other sectors as well, because they're all big opportunities. Why do I think, again, now you've heard me, you heard Christian, you've heard Professor Jose also say that it's a big opportunity, but why is it a big opportunity? Well, one of the things is 25% of the world are Muslims. But another thing, if you look at the demographic, which is more interesting, more than 50% of the Muslim population around the world is less than 30 years old. You see, in fact, so from 15 to 29 and 0 to 14, that's almost half, or if not slightly more than half of the Muslim population is young. So they're about to enter the market. You know, you've got people who are about to enter the market who will eventually in the next 5 years or so will have the spending power. And if you get them, and if you understand their mentality, like, you know, you talk about millennials, you talk about Gen Z, if you understand their mentality, you can get this opportunity, you can leverage off this opportunity, and you can beat big names. If you're a businessman, you can beat big names like Nestle and all of these, because they might not be thinking on that perspective. You know, Muslims also are, the Muslim globally is becoming more affluent, in the sense, if you look at these reports that are being made, the GDP per capita of Muslims has been increasing by almost 5%. You see, and it's going to increase by 4.3% by 2024. So there's an increasing GDP per capita as well. A lot of, like in the GCC, based in Bahrain, but also in the GCC, there are a lot of high net worth individuals who are Muslims. You know, if you even go towards the Southeast Asia side, and you know, there's an increasing religious affinity, which is interesting. Which there was a report done, and which I'm, you know, stating here, that especially in non-Muslim countries, you know, a lot of Muslims are going back to their roots. Now, I'm not saying that they're in any other sense, but they just want to be more towards their identity, you know. And this is an interesting one. This happened to this is a very interesting phenomena with migrants. You see, when your parents or the first generation migrants move to a country or to a jurisdiction, they try to assimilate into the society. They want to be like the society, you see. But then eventually the second generation and third generation, they want to also make their own identity, because they say that we are born here, we are part of this country or land, but we have our own identity. And we see that, I mean, I've lived in the UK, and I've lived in other countries as well, and I see that there's the young people are more and more towards carving out their own identity as, let's say, Scottish Muslims or British Muslims or even European Muslims, you see, French Muslims or whatever. So this is a very interesting phenomena, and that means that there's a consumer opportunity here as well, which again, Europe and the Western world the businesses should not ignore. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, the digital connectivity. Sorry, I've got two screens. So when I look there, I'm actually looking at the screen. I'm not looking away. So the digital connectivity, so 15 of the top 50 countries for smartphone penetration are Muslim countries. But even if you look at the numbers, you know, you've got countries like Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even India, even although India is not a Muslim majority country, but it has about 200 million Muslims plus Muslims. So it's the country with the second most largest population of Muslims. They have all of them have smartphones. Most of them, if you go to like a village in Indonesia or Pakistan, you will see even the poor farmer has a smartphone. You see, so these are opportunities. This is how businesses should be thinking on their strategy. You know, this is just the numbers here. Halal food in 2018 was about $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion. It's projected to grow by 2024 to $2 billion. Yeah, so about $2 trillion. Sorry, so 1.3 trillion. So that's trillion, not billion. So it's about to grow to 1.9. Yeah, so that's an opportunity. Modest fashion. 283 billion is going to go to 402. So as you can see, all of them are projected to grow significantly, about 6% average compounded annual growth. Yep. When I come to Islamic banking, and I want to build a case where I think these numbers are going to increase. This is, if I think it's it's about 2 trillion. I think it's going to be more than $2 trillion. You see, and I'll tell you why, because I'll build a case. I'll use Islamic finance to build a case, but you'll see why. Now, Islamic banking as an industry, I don't want to go into the detail. I mean, just to get an overview of what, for some of the people who have never heard the term, like some Abrahamic religions. In fact, if I've read, you know, comparative religion, and I've read about Judaism and Christianity, and in the Old Testament as well, like all Abrahamic religions, you know, interest is frowned upon, it's looked upon, and it's not, you know, allowed. If you look at the old readings or texts, sorry. So in Islam, it's the same. You know, you have to adhere to some. So it's not more of a religious thing; it's more of an ethical finance. So you're not allowed to charge interest. It's about risk taking, but it's also about partnerships. You share the profits, but if there's a loss, as partners, we have to share it. It's a VC model, right? So 1400, like Silicon Valley does a VC model. They partner with businesses. They say, give me equity of X%. We will do a business and we'll share profits. if there's a loss, as a capital provider, I'll take the hit. That's one example. There are other examples, but we don't have time to go into that. But if you look at the Islamic finance industry, it's seen considerable growth over the past 20 years. It's seen double-digit growth. It did taper down since the crash at around 2010, but still it didn't stop from growing. Currently, it's valued at about $3 trillion. And according to this Thomson Reuters definitive report, it's going to grow to about $3.6 trillion, $3.7 trillion by 2024. I kind of disagree with it because there are certain reports that say it's going to double, it's going to reach $6 trillion or $4 trillion or $4.5 trillion. And why do I say that? Well, if you look at the Muslim economies, they're very much dependent on commodities. And there's a big correlation between economic activity and commodity prices. And it's the same with Islamic finance. If you look at the GCC, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, the GCC or the Middle East, they're very much dependent on oil. If you look at Malaysia, even Indonesia, commodity-based crude palm oil. If you look at Pakistan and the subcontinent, agriculture, so again, commodity-based, Central Asia as well to an extent. So what we see is that when Islamic finance experienced the highest level of growth was between 2000 to about 2008, 2009, when the commodity super cycle, when I'm sure some of you remember that oil prices were at $100 a barrel plus. There was a commodity super cycle. And then after the crash, everything declined. So that is when there was the highest growth in Islamic finance. And I know that there's been a crash, but one thing I was looking at 2 days ago was the Standard & Poor Commodity Index. This is like an index of all the commodities. And since last year, this is 1 year, as you can see, 1 year. So as of September 14, 2020, from 2020 to 2021, the commodity prices or index has grown to about 56%. You see, so I think we are entering into a commodity super cycle within the next year or so. Commodity prices will hit. They'll be some geopolitical uncertainty. If that's a trigger, then there'll be, and I know I'm being recorded, but don't quote me for this, but there might be a crash in the crypto space, and then commodities will have a positive impact, and we will go on to a commodity super cycle. And what does that mean? That has, as we've seen, that has always had a positive correlation on Islamic finance. But the interesting thing is, if it has had a positive correlation with Islamic finance, it has also had a positive impact on other, halal activities, such as food. People will consume food more. People would buy more fashion, clothes, which are, how it is, your luxuries, your recreation activities, your, all of these things will also, consumption for this will go up, especially in Muslim countries. So that's something as businesses, we have to keep in mind. Now we come to halal food. Halal food, again, a big consumer opportunity. In 2018, there was a consumption of 1.37 trillion by 1.8 billion Muslims, 5.1% year-on-year growth. Again, like I mentioned, it's poised to grow to about $2 trillion by 2024. But one of the interesting things I want to show you is that the biggest exporters of halal food or halal meat, both of the two biggest exporters are non-Muslim countries. Brazil is the biggest exporter of halal meat, and Australia is the second biggest exporter of halal meat, beef, chicken, whatever, you see. And the thing is, one of the other things, if you look here at the consumers, you see, the biggest consumer of halal food is Indonesia. So your strategy should, as businessmen, especially based in Europe and want to build linkages, I mean, the biggest is Indonesia, second is Turkey, third is Pakistan. So when you think of the halal economy, you're thinking about the GCC, and yes, there's a lot of affluent people, but also if you look at the population, consumption is also linked to population, especially of food. I think your strategy should also explore these countries. You see that these might not look very affluent, but obviously there's definitely a consumption base there. So this is something which is very interesting. So if Brazil can do it, why can't European countries leverage off this opportunity? You see, why can't Spanish companies, leverage off this opportunity? Because there is a big demand, and like I said, it's going to increase, not just because of the fact that commodity super cycle, There's also the increasing population, the young population getting older, and affluence as well. What are the hot sectors in 2020? What have been the hot sectors when it comes to halal food? Well, halal ingredients. It's interesting, like when you travel, like as a Muslim, sometimes, I end up looking at the ingredients of even chocolates and jellies, because the gelatin used can be from pork, you see, and that's obviously non-compliant. That's not Sharia compliant. In fact, I'll share an interesting experience with you. I was in a restaurant in Europe, I think, I don't remember where. In fact, I won't tell you where. So I called the waitress and I said, "Is this? Do you have halal food?" Right? And yes, they said, "Yeah, all the chicken dishes are halal." Right? And this was a Western restaurant, so not like a Indian or something restaurant. This was a Western. And when I looked at all the chicken dishes, almost all of them either had alcohol in them or had pork in them, like they were glazed or something like that, or they were mixed. But they didn't know, so they were saying that they were serving halal food, but there was just like this misunderstanding of what halal food is. Just because your chicken is, or supply, your source of one ingredient is halal, doesn't mean the whole product is halal. That's what I'm trying to get at. So that's very interesting, halal feed, because sometimes what happens is chickens are fed, grinded leftover remains of dead animals and stuff as well. That's from what I've heard. That of course does not make it halal. Halal food technology, of course, meat-based meals and snacks, retail concepts. So is Europe ready for having a big, chain of halal, suppliers, like we have in other countries? Or in Muslim countries, and halal products through e-commerce. So these are some of the big retail sectors or sectors for growth. I'll go on to a case study. And South Africa is a very good case study when it comes to halal food. If you look at the population of South Africa, only 5% are Muslims. Yeah, but almost 60% of all products that are sold in South Africa or retail in the country are certified halal. And South Africa is basically feeding, because it has access to all of Africa, and Africa also has a large population of Muslims, it is basically the supplier of halal products to the African continent. You see, if you just look at one province, the Western Cape province, the Western Cape's expansion, its local government wanted to expand into this opportunity. And, according to the Western Cape's government's Provincial Economic Review Outlook 2017, this is 2017, so I'm guessing this has increased. This is just one province, by the way. I'm not talking about the whole country. 1/3 of total food exports, valued at $8.2 billion from Western Cape, was considered halal. And the UK was one of the most significant export market for the province. Just this province is generating $8.2 billion. So you can imagine the opportunity here. So this is an interesting case study. But there are others. For example, Australia's leading supermarket chain, Woolworths, launched its Al Sadiq Halal brand, available in 20 stores in Muslim communities. I mean, even when I was living in the UK, Tesco's and all of this, especially where there were Muslim communities, they had started with a halal section. So this is something that's coming up. Japanese restaurant operator Zensho Holdings acquired Malaysia's halal chain, the chicken rice shop, for $53 million, which plans to expand upon existing 100 locations. So this is a company which has taken over, which saw this opportunity and took over this halal business and used it to expand it in the halal space. So this is one example as well. Ferrero Rocher seeks to grow the number of halal certified products and plants. With 33 products and 19 plants are already certified halal. UAE and China signed a trade and investment agreement totaling $3.4 billion as part of the China's Belt Road Initiative. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Belt Road Initiative, including an agreement to create a 1 billion food manufacturing and processing plant in Dubai to import, process, pack, and export agriculture, marine, and animal products. In fact, I believe I was reading the other day, Singapore has signed an agreement with Malaysia and Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken, to establish this, let's say, free zone for halal products. So they're establishing a free zone, and it's a multi-billion-dollar project they're going to be the hub in Southeast Asia for halal, all of this halal food. And that's another opportunity. That's an opportunity. And that's something governments, local, especially local governments, should also look at. Andalusia should also explore this, having serving the halal economy in Europe, being the focal point of serving the halal economy in Europe. Now we come on to Europe. Now, Europe has by 2050, and this is Pew Research, Pew Research, about 14% of the European population will be Muslim. Yeah, and you've got some working already, some big names: Nestle, Tahira Food, American Halal, Bilal Group. So there's a few working in this space, but of course, there's a big opportunity for growth. But there are a lot of challenges. Limited number of restaurants offering halal dishes. You've got limited brands and variety of halal chicken and meat products. You have consumers must drive longer distances to get to stores selling halal food. I mean, as a student in the UK, I experienced that, because when I was there, Tesco and everything, they didn't have the halal stuff. So we used to have to go to like other towns to literally get stuff, which was halal. And of course, formalized education on halal food remains lacking globally, not just in the region, and is poorly developed relative to Islamic finance. Islamic finance has great, trainings and stuff, but halal food, there's nothing very substantial, unfortunately. Especially true in Europe, where no formal education exists as such on this topic till we launched with San Telmo Business School, the halal food program, which Professor Jose Antonio will speak of. I know Christian just explained this, so I won't take too much of our time on this, but just to again reiterate, the think tank will have three major verticals or operations: research and capacity building, PR and media, and networking and connectivity. So most of the training and capacity building, of course, is done through the Halal Chair. We'll just facilitate that. But the think tank is more encompassing, having facilitating businesses and all of that. So research and capacity building, Professor Jose Antonio will give more details on that. But also one of the interesting things we want to do is give advice on where to invest in initiatives regionally and globally related to the halal economy sector. So as a consultancy as well, from your investment perspective, just giving that element as well. PR and media, one of the things we want to, do, and by next year we want to do it, is hold an annual European OIC Halal conference in Andalusia, where we want to bring in businesses both from Europe and the GCC and other countries in the OIC. OIC is Organization for Islamic Countries. It's a group of all Islamic countries. So we want to hold this annual conference or, exhibition of sorts, like a delegation, trade delegation exhibition of sorts every year in Andalusia. And then produce, a PR and branding, magazines and digital and all of that. Again, we want to build, and Christian said this as well, we want to build a database of businesses who are working in this space or who want to work in this space or are interested. And we're just trying to connect investors / businesses, cross-border investors and businesses with each other. So I believe that is my presentation. What I will do is I will then now move the presentation, the mic to Professor Jose Antonio, if he's there.
La presentación. Thank you, Professor Khalid, and thank you also for your very interesting presentation on the halal market. I do agree it is a very exciting opportunity for companies around the world. Well, I will remove my mask. Well, I will briefly introduce myself. I am Jose Antonio Boccherini. I am a professor in San Telmo, and I am also the director of the food department. Okay. We have it. Tengo un pasador. Okay. Okay. So I've been asked to present briefly the online education program that we are proposing, that we have titled Halal Food Companies Getting Global in the Food Market, okay? So I will give a brief explanation, first a general idea about the program, and before that I want to present you briefly what San Telmo is and our credentials in the food education, okay? We're a business school. We have 2 physical campuses in Spain, in Malaga and Sevilla, wonderful cities if you ever had the chance to travel to them. And we are the only business school that has, in the world, that has as their priority developing senior executive education for senior managers, okay? We are the only business school, and we have been doing this for almost 40 years. So we have a high degree of specialization in this. We have written more than 500 business cases on the food market. So we have a very extensive a library of our own material, and we have very expert professors on this, okay? We carry out our activity in Spain, but also in other parts of the world. We carry out activity in Italy, based in Milano, for senior Italian food executives. We carry out our activity in Miami for senior Latin American food executives, and also in Casablanca and Rabat for senior West African and African in general food managers and entrepreneurs, okay? So what's the program about? First, the practical information. So if you sign for the program, what would be the setting, the general setting? Okay, well, this is 100% live online program. This is very important, the first thing. So it implies very little hassle. You can follow the program from any part of the world. Anywhere you can sign up on the program and participate in the sessions. An important thing, it's live. Why do we say it's live? So it's not pre-recorded sessions that you are going to listen. No, it's live online interactive sessions. You are going to debate online at the same thing as we're doing now, collected at the same time to debate the cases and the ideas, okay? Third idea, it's based on the case method. The case method describes real business situations. I told you before, we've written more than 500 cases, and we are constantly writing cases. Last year, we produced around 25 business cases from companies all around the world. So we are always busy into trying to reflect in the cases the most recent food challenges, trends, and situations that affect the food market worldwide. And also online debates with senior executives. Professor Mustafa was describing this in his experience before with our input program. It will be 10 afternoons, 20 sessions, so 20 classes, 2 sessions per afternoon, and our idea is to do it over 5 weeks, 2 afternoons per week, okay? But the final schedule is still to be defined, and the final dates as well, okay? So which are the participants? Who is this program intended for? Well, in general, senior executives. So we can say owners, directors, farm owners, from all the food chain. And all the food chain is everything which is between the seed and the stomach of the consumer. So it's agriculture and cattle production, food manufacturing, retail, food service, is everything in between. And it makes a lot of sense and adds a lot of value to have people from all the links in the value chain together in the same classroom, because this gives a very broad perspective of all the challenges in the food business, okay? Main benefits, okay? Our proposal is to teach and help halal food companies to go global in the global food markets, okay? So the first benefit you will receive from attending this program is understand the hottest trends in the global food market. So what is it that is going on in the world? What is it that worries consumers around Europe, around America, around Latin America, around the US, and will also worry halal food consumers? The second one is develop a network of useful contacts. So you will be debating and interacting with the group of participants in small teams, and you will have contacts, and you say contacts with peers, high responsibility peers that have also a common interest in the halal food market. So if you join these people together, you always end up making business together. And this is something which adds a lot of value. Third, inspire yourself with fresh business ideas by analyzing what other people in other cases are doing. You will say, hey, that's a great idea that I can put in place in my business. Exchange ideas, detect new business opportunities, and improve also the way you manage your own business by studying and analyzing best practices and how other people do things, okay? This is the structure of the program in terms of topics. We've divided it into 5 modules, so we'll be talking about 5 different things, okay? The first is understanding global food markets, customers, and needs. What is it that is going on today in the world's food market? Not in your own country. This is something you probably will know better than we. But what is it that is going on in the world? In Europe, in America, in Latin America, in Africa. Second, understanding and seizing the halal market. Okay. And in that market, what is specifically the halal market, the needs, and the consumers? Third, once we have the definition of what the market is, the next point is we have to define how to approach the market. So how can we go to develop a value proposition for these markets that we have just been analyzing before? What is the value proposition that we should be defining? Of course, this is an education program. It's not a consulting project. We will not be talking about your specific value proposition, but we will highlight different value propositions developed and strategies to address global food markets. And this will inspire you and give you a lot of ideas. Fourth, how to build and strengthen the capabilities you need and require to deliver that value proposition. And fifth, how do you finance this global halal business opportunity? Okay, I will give you a bit more detail and explain you some examples of the cases that we will be, as I told you before, most of the sessions will be based on the case method. What is the case method? I will describe at the end in more detail. The case method is we are going to debate in the classroom as if we were the managers of that company, what we would do if with that company to address the challenges, difficulties, problems, and decisions that are described in the case. Cases are not a beautiful story. They are not success cases, our cases. They are documents that describe a real business situation which faces problems, difficulties, challenges, and decisions to make. So we will propose you to put yourself in the shoes of the CEO of that company, and in the classroom, we are going to debate what we would do as if we were the management committee of that company. What would we do if we were the CEO of that company? And some people will end up saying, well, you know, I will close this business line or because it's losing money. And others say, no, I think we have to maintain that business line because it gives us access to markets and we have to invest to make it profitable. But for that, I think we have to raise prices, to increase prices. No, if we increase prices, we are going to lower So we have to lower prices, but if we lower prices, then we have to reduce expenses and we have to become more efficient. I mean, this is the kind of debates we are going to develop in the classroom, okay? And you will feel identified with this debate. And you will feel that you will be discussing your own problems in a different company because you will recognize your problems and then you will become very objective. Okay, so let me give you a bit more detail on which specific topics we are going to address in each of these 5 modules. Okay, this can be useful for you to assess whether this program is going to add value to you. Okay, first one. Just a moment. Okay, first one. Understanding global food markets and customer needs. So first thing is we'll have a lecture on how do retailers think. This is interesting. Retailers will generally be our main customers. What do they think? Which criteria they use to select their suppliers? How do we have to work with them in order to do it in a profitable way? Second, grocery retail trends in the US market. We have an expert who is based in New York, and he's very good in understanding these trends and explaining them, okay? We'll have also a case debate. Globo, you know, Globo is one of the biggest company in the world in food delivery. This is one of the hottest trends today. How delivery is going to change the way we send, the way consumers buy their food. This is relevant for all of us. We'll have also a case on cultured meat. You know, cultured meat, this new technology by which they say we will be able to make real meat in the future without growing animals from stem cells and cultivating stem cells in a bioreactor. There is a company that is doing this already. It's a company based in California, in Silicon Valley, called Eat Just. This is a very interesting case to reflect about, hey, how is the future market going to be? And they have several challenges in developing this product and how to go to market with them. And we will debate as if we were the owners of that company, okay? Then the rise of veganism. This is very relevant trend today. In Europe, in the US, in many developed markets. And we have a case, Circular Foods is from it's a subsidiary of one of the biggest meat companies in Europe that has created a different subsidiary to address all the business of alternative proteins, veggie burgers, and all these kind of things, okay? So our reflection will be, how is this market going to evolve? Is food going to be that way, or is it going to be a niche market? And then the imperative of sustainability. You have to be sustainable today. Consumers and retailers require you to be sustainable and prove that you are sustainable. Otherwise, they don't want to make business with you. And we will analyze with the case of Suntory Beverage and Food, how they do it in their markets. Second, understanding and seizing the halal food market. What is halal? What does it imply? How to fulfill halal requirements? How to manage halal operations efficiently? This is important, and this will be an interactive lecture. Seizing the global halal food opportunity, markets, consumers, the global opportunity, and we'll have more detail and more ideas, expanding the information that Professor Mustafa just told us. Third, defining, so once we understood how global food markets take the decisions and consumers how they evolve, then we will say, okay, how which type of value propositions we can develop to address those markets. And we will start by a case, Pazo de Vilane. This is a small company that is succeeding by building on three attributes. There is local products, ecological, and sustainable. Is this an interesting proposition? How you deal with this business? We'll have another case from a company Driscoll's of Europe, which is a fruit and vegetable with the challenges of building a brand in fruits and vegetables. This is not an easy thing. And this company is trying and willing to do that in Europe, where they are asking supermarkets, say, I don't want a brand, I want you to make my private label, okay? But they want to make a brand. How do you go about building brands in fruits and vegetables in developed markets? We'll have also a case of the biggest processed meat company in Europe called Campofrio Food Group, how they develop a strategy to address mature markets. How do they do that? Mature markets which do not grow in Europe, which are very competitive. How do you add value with a brand approach? Then we'll have another company, is a Latin American company, Proan, who says, I want to change from being an ingredient supplier because they ask me for chicken meat, but they pay me very little. I want to become a value-added product supplier because that will generate more margin. Otherwise, I am just a commodity producer. And how we can do that with this company. And also, a very different case is a startup that wants to bring a radical innovation to the market. And they want to say, I want to launch to the market a chocolate with probiotics that will improve the health of consumers. How do I market this? This is in line with consumer preferences. But how do I bring that to market? How am I successful being a startup with this product in the market? And this is a very interesting debate as well. Then we have the fourth. I'm almost finishing. Okay. The fourth one is okay. How do we build and strengthen the capability? Okay, we know how the market is from the previous point. We know we have some ideas. We receive some ideas of different market value propositions that can help us be successful in the market, and say, hey, now we have to build a company. Now we have to build the company to deliver that value proposition, and we're going to study examples of companies that are doing this. Okay, first one, how to define the internationalization strategy. Many companies don't know how to do that. So I want to become international. I want to sell out of my country. Okay, from a strategic point of view, how do you do that? How do you choose your destiny market? How you implement a strategy to become international? Many companies do it by learning, by doing and failing. Okay, well, I tried it for 15 years and I was unsuccessful in 10 countries because I didn't know the basics and the essentials on how to be successful in a new market. And this case is about this. Second one, from startup to success, building complex operations. This company, BooFood, is launching a food delivery business with dark kitchens. You probably have heard, because these are the hottest trends in the food market worldwide, okay? And they are startup and they have to build very complex operations. How do they do that, okay? How can they deal with very complex operations that allow you to send the food to consumers' home in 30 minutes from their order? Well, this is a challenge. We have to learn how to do that. Overcoming protectionist barriers in target markets. This is important. There has been lately a wave of protectionism. For instance, Spanish olives were imposed by Donald Trump in the US a tariff of 35%. So if this happens, and this can increasingly happen in the world, how can we address the the US market and still being competitive? Okay, are there strategies that can help us with that? And this is what we debate in this case. Or for instance, a model for sustainability and shared value creation. And this is the case sustainability and Nespresso. You know Nespresso, the big coffee brand from Nestle. What is their model to be sustainable and create shared values in all the communities where they produce coffee, where they source their coffee from? This is very interesting because, and there is also a question, is why does Nestle do that? Do they do that only for charity? Or do they do that because it's in the essence, in the basis of their business model? Okay, and then we'll have a lecture on omni-channel, one of the big issues, the hot issue in the world today. How can we integrate different channels so that they work seamlessly? Okay, this is a big challenge as well. And we'll end up by defining also, okay, so how do we finance all this? Because if we want to grow, if we want to become international and global, we will need financing, and it's not very easy, it's complex. And our colleagues at the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance, they are experts on this, and they will give us a lot of ideas and explain us how we can plan our finance in terms of uncertainty, obtain financial resources, finance global expansion, and how can we deal with partners, shareholders, and capital structure for growth, okay? So this is the program, just a few final ideas to describe, and we have some pictures here of what an online program is. First, the case study method, I already told you. Just a summary, real business situations from companies around the world facing relevant challenges and leading the food chain of the future. How do you learn with cases? You have to put yourself in the shoes of the protagonist, which is generally the CEO of the company. So you are going to play the game of being the CEO of all those companies. This is very enriching. This is very enriching. Think, what would you do? Discuss alternatives and solutions in the class led by an expert professor, which is generally the author of the case. Also, he's quite expert on the topic. The case method has 3 steps. First one is individual study. You have to read and prepare the case on your own before attending the class. Then when you arrive to the class that afternoon, you will be first having a small team debate in a group of 8, 9 persons to exchange ideas about the case. You can test your own ideas and enrich yourself with ideas that others saw in the case. And finally, we'll go to the general classroom, and we will all be debating the case and our proposals under the guidance and the leading and the moderation of an expert professor. Okay? We will also have interactive lectures. Lectures in this program are not you just listening and a professor explaining. We foster and we encourage interaction so that you can express also your ideas, that you can ask your questions, and you can say, raise your hand and say, Professor, I don't agree with that. I think things are different. Because, you know, in business, things are not what black and white. Things are, they have a full range of colors, of grays in between. And so there are many things that are debatable. And there is not one truth. It is your own truth that you have to find. Your way of doing things. And by debating and exchanging the ideas, that's how you get value in business, especially if you are a senior manager. And then we also have dialogues with senior executives. In many cases, we will be able to have, after the case debate, senior manager of that company to explain us how they did the things. What do they do in that situation? Okay, so our approach pretends to be interactive, practical. It's real cases. It's no theories. insightful, and inspirational. I hope you like the experience. I hope you are willing to join the experience. And I do assure you that if you join the experience, you will improve very much as a business person, as a person, and as a manager. Thanks very much. And I think it's now the turn for Mrs. Rim Al-Kaber.
Yes, so
Just in time.
Will be now presenting to us how we can leverage off, businesses can leverage off this experience and opportunity in Bahrain. So over to you, Reem. You're on mute, Reem. We cannot hear you. We still can't hear you, Reem.
Now we have Miss Reem as co-hoster so that she can share her screen and perfect. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
It's gone again. Sorry to cut you off, but I could hear you. But now
No, not now. There must be a problem with your microphone or no.
Do you have headphones? Do you have headphones? Those will help. I believe Reem is just logging in again. Although we had a test run yesterday and it was fine. That's a bit strange. What's happening? But just bear with us. I think she'll take a minute to re-log in. Maybe sometimes that happens. Just open this.
Hi, is it all good now?
Yeah,
Okay, that's great.
good to have you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll be sharing my screen.
Yeah, you have been already granted to be co-hoster, Reem.
Yeah.
So whenever you want.
Can you see my slides? Okay. So again, sorry about the inconvenience, but pleasure to be with you all today. Good morning. I'm Reem Al-Bakar, part of the investment origination team at the Economic Development Board. The EDB is a government agency that is mandated to attract foreign direct investments into the country and create jobs, but also kind of to improve and enhance the ecosystem here in Bahrain. Our organization is chaired by His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister. Sit on our board a number of ministers, but also representatives from the private sector. We all work together to ensure that the infrastructure and the ecosystem here in Bahrain is up to the standards, and we're able to attract companies such as yours to come and set up in Bahrain. We focus on multiple sectors, be it financial services, technology and innovation, manufacturing and logistics, tourism, real estate, education, and healthcare. My role specifically within the investment origination team is to support European companies that are looking to set up in Bahrain across all sectors, but I do have colleagues in the team that cover other markets beyond Europe. So in my presentation today, I'll be walking you through why you should consider Bahrain for your expansion plans, but also on how we can support you here at the Economic Development Board. So ever since the 1960s, Bahrain realized the importance of diversifying the economy away from the oil and gas sector. And through the diversification process, Bahrain was successfully able to reduce its dependency from over 50% of the GDP to less than 20%, as you can see on the chart. And through that process, we were able to develop and grow our financial services and manufacturing capabilities. So today, both of these sectors are considered to be the largest contributors to our non-oil GDP. And they're also being followed by transportation and communication. These are sectors that Bahrain has heavily invested in. So in the case of financial services, in 2020, we celebrated 100 years of banking, ever since the establishment of the first international bank, Standard Chartered. While for manufacturing, we've been experiencing rapid growth in the fast-moving consumer goods, so the FMCG segment. Bahrain has attracted notable investments from the likes of large food and beverage players, so Mondelez from the US, and we also have Arla, which is based out of Denmark, that also established here in Bahrain. So this brings me to my next point on how Bahrain can act as a gateway and beyond. So our strategic location at the heart of the Gulf has always offered companies a natural opportunity to leverage on unparalleled access, especially to the largest GCC market, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we're connected to the Eastern Province via a 25-kilometer causeway. So it's typically like a 40 minutes drive away. This causeway offers the fastest and the most efficient entry point to the kingdom. So as a manufacturer or as an investor in Bahrain, you can basically access Bahrain and 75% of Saudi Arabia just within 24 hours. Nevertheless, since we're on the topic for more towards export-oriented investors, they can also benefit from the 22 free trade agreements that Bahrain currently maintains with the GCC and with the greater world, Arab world. It extends all the way from Syria, Yemen, and all the way to Morocco. But we also do have free trade agreements with key international markets, so the likes of the US, Singapore, Switzerland, and Iceland. So this is another benefit to Bahrain. But if you're still wondering why you should invest in Bahrain, in terms of ease of business, Bahrain offers 100% foreign ownership across 98% of our business activity. So you won't have to forfeit your ownership to a local partner. There's 0% corporate income and wealth tax. In terms of cost of doing business, Bahrain at the very least can be on annual operating cost up to 43% lower than neighboring jurisdictions. And we can support these numbers by sharing with you a KPMG cost of doing business report that we conduct based on the different sectors that we support at the Economic Development Board. In terms of the free zone restrictions, so there aren't any free zone restrictions in Bahrain. So you can in fact think of Bahrain as a whole as one big free zone. The second reason being is our skilled workforce. We're actually very proud of our human capital. Bahrain has a highly skilled, dedicated, and a bilingual workforce. If you look across all the active sectors that we have in Bahrain, you would find that there's a high participation of nationals. So far, most of the things I've mentioned, such as our strategic location, the free trade agreements, ease of doing business, the skilled workforce, are all elements that are very important for a company to be successful. But what's also important is the quality of life that the next your expansion destination should also have. And in our case, Bahrain is well regarded as the best place to live and work in the GCC. So we rank first globally for work-life balance, but also fifth globally when it comes to quality of life. And last but not least is our Team Bahrain approach, where we all work together to make your experience as an investor in Bahrain as seamless as possible. The beauty of Bahrain is that it's small, but things move very quickly, where all ministries work together to achieve an agile and a competitive business environment. So this kind of brings me to the end of my presentation, where I want to focus a bit more on what we do at the Economic Development Board and how we can support you. In a nutshell, the EDB is a one-stop shop for investors to support investors across the investment lifecycle. So as I've mentioned earlier, I'm part of the investment origination team, and we're kind of your first point of contact. We will help companies understand Bahrain, understand the infrastructure, and will handhold you through your feasibility stage. Once you've established interest in Bahrain, we'll introduce you to our investment development team. They are our sector specialists. They'll support you by connecting you to the relevant regulator for your specific activity. So if you're a financial institution, as an example, we'll connect you to the Central Bank of Bahrain. But we also have the investment government affairs team that will support you throughout your commercial registration and company formation. But our support doesn't end when the company establishes in Bahrain. We actually have a fully dedicated investment aftercare team that will appoint an account manager for companies that establish a presence in Bahrain, that you can keep in touch on a regular basis. If you're facing any issues, they can jump in and kind of support. But also if you're doing really well, you can also reach out to them and they'll support you with your expansion plans. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for having me. If you have any questions, please feel free to scan the QR code. You'll get access to my email, my number. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reem. Thank you for that. That was very insightful. And yes, you guys do a great job. Because we also have partners coming from abroad and they also speak highly of the job EDB does. So thank you very much, Reem. I think we're towards the end. I mean, we can, if Professor Jose also allows me, open the floor for any questions if there may be. Otherwise, we will, thank everyone for attending. But if Professor Jose, we will open the floor for some questions from our participants.
Yes, of course. If there is any question, just proceed. If not, it could be convenient to remind that we are gonna send all the presentations to the people participating in this webinar via WeTransfer, because they are a bit heavy, so that you can review them afterwards in whenever you have time to do it. So the time for questions is open. If not, Professor Mustafa can just close the activity. Is there any question? I think there is one. Shafina?
Yes, Professor. I don't remember asking any questions, but I'll have to check the chat group. Okay, that was at the beginning of the session, Prof, where I couldn't hear anyone.
Okay, sorry.
But thank you for having me. I think this is something takdir, the destiny. I'm from Malaysia, by the way. I teach Islamic economics in Borneo, in a public university. So it's been, this halal thing. I've been trying to teach Sharia compliant economics in a university where 90% are non-Muslim. So it's been a challenge. So I'm looking into how to make it inclusive. I think there's still, Professor Mujtaba was saying how when, in UK you had that trouble. I studied in US. I go there every 5 years and things are catching up. But sad to say, Malaysia majority, 70% are Muslim. We would think, I think sometimes we brag and we say, we have it all under control. But we have a long way to go. So I'm so glad I attended this. You've given me a lot to think. I will get in touch with the people that I met today. So it would be nice to attach a face to the name through LinkedIn, and then we'll take it from there, because I know you have a time constraint and whatnot. But thank you again for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
It's a pleasure to have you. So if there are not any questions, I mean, you can always reach us. I mean, I don't know if I'll write my email on, obviously there's LinkedIn as well, but what I'm doing is I'm typing my email address on the chat. If anyone wants to reach out directly, or LinkedIn is obviously a good place to, link up as well. But if there's no more questions, what we'll do is we'll start. I'll just finish off by saying thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And this is just the start. There's so much, as we all learned from all the professors. There's so much in this space that can be done and that needs to be done, because it's not just us saying theoretically, the numbers are there too. That's why my presentation was on numbers, not just like saying, oh yes, this is a good opportunity. I made my presentation while thinking on the numbers, you see, because there is an opportunity here, both in the educational space, in the business space, in the connectivity between regions, you see, and then the more connectivity in regions is, I think everyone is well off. You see, there was a global, like 2 years, not to go too political, but 2 years ago or a year ago, people were saying that no, every country, there was a big push towards nationalism and all of that, coming, let's say, from a US president, an old US president. But I think the thing is that connectivity makes the world a better place. Connections between businesses, between academia, between people makes everyone or the world a better place. So I think we're very excited. We're very honored and excited to have partners such as Telmo Business School and Burj Group. Thank you, everyone. And like Professor said, the presentations will be shared with you, inshallah, after we log off. And if there's nothing else, then I'd like to say thank you for attending. Assalamu alaikum, and have a good day. Buenos dias, I believe that's the Spanish. Excuse my Spanish. My Spanish reference is Dora the Explorer. When my daughter watches Dora the Explorer, that's my Spanish reference. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, thank you. See you soon. See you all soon. Thank you for attending the activity. Welcome to this Halal Economy Chair, and we hope to keep in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.